All right, so welcome to today's presentation. Today we are talking about the changes in zipForm that took effect yesterday. Everyone, if you log into zipForm, you'll see these changes immediately. I know changes, anytime we do anything in zipForm, can always be a little bit scary, but I assure you, these are not that bad. So I'm going to explain everything in great detail. Before we jump into the actual presentation, I think the most important news is tacos. And so the Glendale Association of REALTORS is having a Taco Truck Tuesday on May 7th at 5 p.m. at the Glendale Association. It's on Isabella Street. So if you want tacos, it's $20, all you can eat. That's a pretty good deal. If you've ever gone to any Mexican restaurant around here, you don't really get that many tacos for $20. So make sure you attend this. You can, I think, register directly on the Glendale Association website. You can always contact Christina, Robert. They'll help you out there. But raffle and prizes as well. So Taco Truck Tuesday, May 7th, 5 p.m. Before we jump into the actual presentation, I just want to go over the Zoom control panel for everyone. So if you can remain muted during the presentation, that'd be really great. That way we don't have a lot of feedback between what I'm saying and other people talking. There is a chat box inside of Zoom. If you have questions, you can type them into the chat box. I'll see those as they come in. We'll also have a Q&A session at the very end of this presentation where if you want, you can unmute, we can talk, we can answer questions. So you'll have plenty of opportunity to have all your questions answered. You can also raise your hand in the participants tab. I'll see that come up on the screen. So if there's a question that you want to ask, you can also just raise your hand. I'll call on you. You can unmute yourself and ask the question. So let's go ahead and start with some introductions. My name is Ed Charboneau. For those that don't know me, I'm the Realtor Training and Transaction Manager at the California Association of REALTORS. I am going to be talking about a couple new things. We have a sort of a different agenda than if you attended the live presentation last Tuesday. I sort of went through the entire zipForm platform. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to talk about the changes right off the bat that happened in zipForm yesterday. After I talk about the changes, I'll go into a presentation about more general zipForm, the more general zipForm platform. We'll talk about Record Connect and seller disclosures and zipCommunity, but I just wanted to get the really important information out of the way. That way, if you're already comfortable with the zipForm platform, you don't have to just stick around and listen to me talk about zipForm. You can get the information that you need and go about your day, prep dinner or anything like that. But this will be about an hour and a half session. But I will go through all the important stuff at the beginning. And then at the very end, we'll talk about some other zipForm stuff. And then, of course, any questions you have, if there's specific things that you want me to cover, I'll be happy to cover those as well. So first, what happened yesterday? So yesterday, for those of you that have been using zipForm for quite some time, yesterday, the classic forms editor and Digital Ink 2.0 were removed out of your zipForm system. So anytime that you went to open up a document over the last year, unless you're a new member, you saw these messages pop up for a year. Lots of people were sick of seeing them. The nice thing is they're no longer inside of your zipForm system. When you go to open up a document, it'll just automatically open up into the new forms editor. So the classic forms editor, which has been in zipForm for about 10 years, is gone. Digital Ink 2.0, which has also been inside zipForm for about 10 years, is no longer available, but we have some great replacements for these programs. So we have the brand new forms editor. There's a lot of really great features inside of that. And then there's also a new signing platform called AuthentiSign. And AuthentiSign is fantastic. There's a couple really key cool features that I like in the new AuthentiSign that I think will really excite you and get you to use it. DocuSign, for those that use DocuSign, DocuSign is still available inside zipForm, so you can still use that if you have a DocuSign subscription. but the free signing platform is now AuthentiSign. Oops, I went back. Before we jump into the actual presentation, the last thing I want to talk about, starting in January of 2024, we offered a new member benefit program inside of zipForm. So if you've used zipForm, you may be familiar with a program called MLS Connect. That program imports data from the MLS directly into your transaction and autofills all the information onto your forms. It was really great if you were making offers. You can import listing information directly to your form, send out your offer, all the listing agent's information would be there. We added a new member benefit this year called Record Connect. Now, what Record Connect does is it imports information from national records. So if you are a listing agent now, all you have to do is start a transaction. As long as you have a property address entered into your transaction of zipForm, you can click on the Record Connect. It'll import legal description, lot, APN, zoning, and it also imports the seller's or the homeowner's information. So for a listing agent, it would be your sellers, but it imports their name. And if their name is in a is in a trust or in a corporation, it'll import that information as well. So it's a very easy program to use. Anytime you open up a transaction, the first page you're brought to is the summary tab of the transaction. You'll see the Record Connect button right in the summary tab. Like I said, as long as you have a property address entered in, that's the only information you need entered into your transaction. All you have to do is click on the Record Connect button. It'll then pull up seller information, county, parcel number, APN, legal description, and it'll import that directly into your transaction so that you don't have to retype this out. So that was the only bit of news that I wanted to talk about. So let's go into our actual zipForm program. So the big changes that happened inside zipForm. So most of us are familiar with zipForm. And anytime we're working with buyers or sellers, what we're going to do is we're going to start a transaction. Now, I'm just going to go ahead and start a new transaction just to start a fresh one. But let's say I'm starting a new purchase offer transaction. I'll go ahead and name the transaction. I'll put in the property address, the city, state, and zip code. And then I'll select what type of property this is. Is it residential, multi-use, condominium? And then I'll go ahead and click save. Now, generally, once we start a transaction, we'll enter in party information. We'll go to our documents. We'll pull in whatever documents we need. But the big changes come once you have all your documents. You now need to edit these. You need to open up these documents, and you need to start filling in information. Well, when we click on a document now, it will automatically open up into the new forms editor. Now, one of the benefits to this new forms editor right off the bat is that in the classic forms editor, you had to, if you wanted to look at the entire form, it didn't automatically fill to your screen. It was just a form and you had to click on the full screen button. In the new forms editor, the document will automatically adjust to fit whatever screen size you're on. So all I have to do, if I'm clicking on stuff, you'll notice that the document automatically sizes and resizes for me to fit my entire screen. Now, for the most part, the new forms editor works just like the classic forms editor. I can scroll through this document here. If I need to enter in buyer information, I can just go ahead and type that in just like I normally would. I can continue to scroll through this document and I'll see all the fillable fields and I can type in all that information that I normally would. Let me get down to the actual purchase agreement here. I can start to fill in this information. If I wanted to put in purchase price, I can type in whatever purchase price I want. All the checkboxes still work. So the basics of filling out a form are exactly the same as you're used to. You can come into the form and you can start to fill it out. But it does a lot more than just allows you to fill in information. With the new forms editor and with the new signing platform, we tried to make the look of these two programs really consistent. That way, if you were using the new forms editor or if you're using the new AuthentiSign, for the most part, they would look kind of the same. All of your tools now in the new forms editor and in the new AuthentiSign, all of them are over here on the right-hand side of your screen. So the first thing you'll see up top here is there's a parties tab directly inside of the forms editor. So yes, you can fill in party information onto the documents, but you can also fill it in inside of this parties tab. And any information that you put into the parties tab will automatically flow over to your document as well. The other nice part about this parties tab here, if I wanted to add in a new party, I can simply click on this parties tab. I will see this blue add button right here. And if I wanted to add a new party, I can just go ahead and select add new party. Right here, I can select what role this party is. So if I wanted to add in buyer 1, buyer 2, buyer 3, buyer 4, I can add in sellers, listing agent information, selling agent information, escrow, title, NHD, home warranty. I can fill in all the standard parties that I normally would put into any of my transactions. Up top here, you can fill in first name, middle name, last name, email address. So for the most part, this is all kind of the same. But the one nice change that they made within this parties tab, me having to go back and forth between my parties tab and my documents tab to fill in information, they added it all right here. But let's say that one of my parties is in a trust. So I'm just going to fill in the name as the trust of buyer. Oh, let me put this in the last name. So as I fill this information in, if I were to save it, you'll see that that information flows over to my document. The nice thing about this new forms editor is if I scroll down below the party information, I will see a signing representative section. So let's say that my party is in a trust or it's in a corporation, but I don't want the trust name or the corporation to show up on my signatures. Yes, I want that trust name or corporation on the actual document. But if I want to have a representative on behalf of that trust or corporation, I can go ahead and put that in right here under the signing representative. Give me 1 second here. I apologize.
I think we lost you, Ed.
No, I'm here. I'm sorry about that. One of the downsides of working from home is that you get unsolicited visitors. So the AT&T people decided it was a good time to stop by. So I shoot them away. I apologize, everyone. So back to where I was. So underneath this parties tab, there's now this signing representative section. So I can add in the signing representative into the form. Fill in Bob Buyer as the signing representative. And save that information. Now, for the most part, the signing representative isn't going to show up until I actually send out a document for signatures. So the party name still shows up as the trust on the document itself. And when I show you the signature portion, you'll see how it automatically changes the party name to the signing representative. Now, down below the parties tab, I will see this forms tab. Currently, the way that this new forms editor works is anything that I'm currently working on will show up here inside of my workspace. So as you can see, I only have the California Residential Purchase Agreement. That's the only form that I'm working on. In the classic forms editor, one of the things is you could only work on one form at a time. You would open up a document, you would work on it. When you need to go to another document, you'd have to back out, go to your documents tab, click on that form, and then open it up. So there was a lot of like clicking back and forth. What we tried to do with this new forms editor was we tried to cut down on you having to go back and forth. So all of my documents that I'm working on currently are in this workspace. Down below the workspace here, it says grab from transaction. Here are all of the documents that are currently inside of my transaction. So if I wanted to work on multiple documents all at once, I can simply come down here to grab from transaction. And if I wanted to add a form into my workspace, let's say right here's my addendum. I see the word addendum, and I see a little plus button right next to the word. If I click on this plus button here, that will take that form, throw it up inside of my workspace. So now I'm working on my California residential purchase agreement. With one click, it'll instantly go to my addendum. Now I can have as many forms as I want inside of my workspace. I can create all sorts of different packets. So if I want to work on multiple disclosures, I can create sort of like a disclosure packet inside of my workspace, fill them all out all at once, send them all out for signatures. But the whole point of this was so that if you wanted to work on multiple forms all at once, you can do so with just a click of the button. I can go between forms. You can see how fast it is on my screen to move between documents. Not only that, let's say that there's a form that isn't inside of my transaction, but I want to add it from the CAR library or any other library that I have access to. Right above my workspace, I will see this blue add button. If I click on this blue add button, I can add forms from my library. So here's my forms library. You can see I have access to the California Association of REALTORS library. I also have access to a ton of other libraries. But if I wanted to add a form that wasn't in my transaction, but from the library, I can simply scroll through here. I can search for specific names of forms like the seller property questionnaire, any form I wanted to. Click this add button and it will automatically add it to my transaction and it adds it to my workspace. I can also upload forms from my computer. So if I have a document on my computer, I can simply click on this upload section here. And if I wanted to add a document from my computer, I can come here, find whatever form that I need. And it's usually, here it is. Let's say I want to add this PDF document. I can upload it there. And then I'll see here that I have this new PDF added into my workspace. Now, let's say that you're done working on a document and you want to remove it from your workspace. That too is very easy. Everything is saved. So if I were to add information into this addendum, let's say I'm just go ahead and type whatever I want into this addendum. The information is saved there. Let's say I want to remove this addendum from my workspace. The form is still inside of my transaction, but if I don't want to work on it anymore, I simply just click this little X button here. That'll remove it from my workspace, but it's still my transaction and the information that I put into it is still saved as well. Let's go ahead and just add in. I want to show a couple other things. So as you can see in my workspace here, I have information still in here. Down over on the right-hand side, there's a couple other tools that I want you to take a look at. So there's a listing information section here. So from this tab, I can quickly add in some real basic listing information. Most of this information is fields that we find on most of our forms. So MLS number, unit number, listing date, listing price, commission information. I can add all this information in. Any information that I put into the listing info section or the offer information section, that info automatically translates into my documents. Now I do see a couple hands raised here, so let's go ahead and Margie, go ahead and if you want, you could unmute yourself. Hi,
Hey,
by the way.
Hi, Ed. Thanks so much. Okay, couple questions. How do you minimize the screen? Like right now, looking at it, so say it comes up to fill up your screen, but maybe you don't want it that big. How do you minimize it?
Well, so it's the same thing as like, any tab that you're working on. Right now it is filling up my entire screen. If I want to minimize it, most of that information up top is up here. So if I wanted to minimize this, I can make it smaller. I can move it around.
I see. Okay.
Yep.
All right. And then the second question is, so in the Classic, you could, on the right-hand side, it said all forms, and you
Yep.
could open it up and you could click which form you wanted, which
Yep.
forms you wanted. So is all forms is gone and now it's forms, or it's add?
Nope, it's add. So the forms is just like the workspace that I'm working in. But if I wanted to go to that all forms button that you noticed in the classic forms editor, I just simply click this add button right here and come to my forms library, and I will see the entire library right here. And I can switch between libraries as well. Now, this is just the way it looks inside of the new forms editor. zipForm itself, so like if you're back inside of your actual zipForm transaction and you're just viewing your documents before you ever actually click on anything, that all forms button is still over here on the right hand side. But when you're actually working within a document, if you want to pull in that same library that you're used to seeing over here, that is that new add button that you just saw.
Okay, so in the new edition, when you open it up, it'll still say all forms.
Nope. So inside zipForm, if you're just on your documents tab, you'll still see the all forms there. So if you want to pull forms in before you actually open up a document, you can do it, yep, just like you normally would.
Okay.
But once you're inside of a document, it's this add button right here.
Okay, so once you're inside, okay.
Yep.
All right. So, and then something else, and so when in the past, I'd be working on a document. Say I had, 7 documents in my, in my, under my property.
Yep.
And I'd be working on a document and I'd save that, right? Save. And then I go on to the next document. I had to sign in again.
Yeah. So you don't have to do that anymore. In this new forms editor, all of the documents that, let's say you had 7 documents in your transaction.
Right.
All of those documents are referenced down here in the grab from transaction.
Okay.
So these are all the forms that are currently in my transaction.
Right.
This workspace here is the active part that I'm actually working on. So let's say I wanted to work on multiple documents. I just have to add them into my workspace up top here. Okay. And I can go between forms super easy.
Okay. And then once you get, so right now you have your RPA, you have a pre-approval letter, you have your addendum, and you have your counteroffer. Now you're all done with that. So now you want to save all of those as a PDF.
So
save up there.
Yep. So if you want to save all these as a PDF, right next to every form, there's a little blank box right here. So I check all these right here. And then right here, there's a downloads button.
Okay.
This downloads button allows you to save a single file. This is like the PDF version that I wanted to.
Okay.
So now I just saved all of those documents as PDFs.
And then there I go and I can then save as a document.
Yep.
Yeah. And then because I always like to send documents to the client first via email, PDF, before I just shoot them over.
Yeah, so all you would do, there's also this other button right here. There's this email button. So if I wanted to, I can send these as an email directly from here as PDF documents. Here's all the documents right here.
That email comes from what, ZipLogic or something?
It'll say your name on it though. It'll say, but it does come, you're right. It's a ZipLogic's email, but it does say your name on it.
Okay. Okay.
Or download it to your computer and then you can send it through whatever email you like.
Right. Okay. All right. Thank you.
No problem. Vic, you had your hand raised?
Yes, sir. Couple questions. One, I might leave a little bit early. Is this recording going to be emailed to us?
Yep. Yep.
Okay. Thank you. Now, the second thing on the listing where it says you clicked listing.
Yep.
I don't know what is that actually does. Is that copying listing from the MLS to the purchase agreement, or what is it doing?
Yep. So this listing information section and the offer information section, these are just little tools that allow, so this listing info section, if I entered in the listing date right here as April 9th,
Yeah.
Anywhere on any of my documents that have the listing date information, it'll take that information and put it onto my documents. So it's sort of like a reference to fill in information really quickly rather than scrolling the listing agreement. If I just wanted to fill in some quick information right here,
Oh,
all of these fields are globally located on our forms. So any document that has a listing date box on it, if I just fill it into this listing info section, it'll auto-populate all that information over to my documents.
to your
Any-
listing document, right?
Yep,
Not purchasing. Yeah, it's
No,
not
because there's no
purchasing.
listing
Okay.
information on
Okay.
the purchase document.
Okay. Oh.
But yeah,
That's
and same thing with offer information. So if I were to put it, closing date, offer date, offer acceptance date, a lot of these fields are on the purchase agreement. And if I put in the offer date, as the 10th of April, anywhere on this listing agreement that has the actual offer date on there, which I'm scrolling down to find it. It's somewhere here. But the offer date will then populate over to this document, wherever that actual field is.
okay. Okay. And my last question, please, how we can auto-populate when we write a purchase agreement, the listing information and the purchase agreement?
So there's a couple ways to do that. So under this listing info section here, up top, you're going to see this import button. This import button connects directly to MLS Connect or Record Connect. So if you're used to using MLS Connect inside zipForm, there's still that same tool, but inside the new forms editor, if I click on the import listing, it'll pull up all of my MLS that I belong to, and then I can just simply put in the listing ID number right here and import it directly into my transaction. Here, I'll show you how it works real quick. Let me just get a listing number.
Thank you.
And I'll show you how that works. Bear with me 1 second here. Just grab a listing number. I've been using the same listing number for 7 years now. And every time I put it in, people ask me if that listing is real because the price is so low on it. But this listing has been long sold. So inside zipForm, inside of this transaction that I was working on, Vic, if I'm just on my documents tab here, before I actually open up a document, I still see this MLS Connect button up here. This is probably what you're used to. So I can still import data directly from this documents tab here. But let's say that I'm inside the new forms editor. The MLS Connect button is also available inside of this new forms editor. Underneath this listing info section, I will see this import button right here. And if I click on the import button, I can click on import listing. I enter in my listing ID number right here, and then click on the word import. And I don't have the right username and password, but that's my own fault. But yeah, if you once you have it synced up, you just enter in your listing number here, click on the word import, and it'll import it directly from your MLS. But it also works too inside of the transaction like it normally does. So there's also this other MLS Connect button underneath the Documents tab here. If I click on this, this is probably what you're used to seeing. And you can still import information directly from the MLS. And it'll pull it in right here in just a second. There it is. And then I just imported all this information into my transaction.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Now, there's a couple other tools. You may notice when I've gone back and forth between documents and then the new forms editor, every time I leave the new forms editor, let's say that I go back to my documents tab or go back into the transaction somewhere other than the forms editor. Anytime I try to click on a document again, I get this little pop-up message. So what's nice about the new forms editor is it will save your previous workspace. So the last time that I was using the forms editor, I had these 4 forms inside of my workspace. So I can start my previous workspace from directly wherever I was last time, Or let's say I want to start a new workspace, I can simply click on Start New Workspace here, and it'll just open up whatever document I wanted to open up in the first place. But it will save your previous workspace, so any of the documents you may have been working on, or that you had sort of bundled together, it'll save that information.
Ed?
Yes.
Ed, does it automatically save or you have to click the save button?
So there's one thing to preference with this. So it does automatically save except for one instance. So when you're in the new forms editor here, if you were to click this back button, that will take you back into your transaction. If I click this back button here, it will ask me, it will automatically save it for me. There's also the save button there. It'll automatically save for me. The only time that it does not save is if someone does what I'm about to show you. So let's say that you're working in this new forms editor, you've gotten a bunch of information out. Well, anytime you do not leave any program correctly, nothing, it does, you don't always get the best save results.
Right.
So how many people, when you're working on something, you just come up to the very top of your web browser and you click this X button?
Right.
If I were to just shut my web browser down, I may not have saved everything. It does save in intervals. So like every 5 minutes, it'll do an auto save for me.
Okay.
Now, if I just exit out of everything, it may not save all my work. But anytime I hit this back button or I hit this save button, it will save everything.
Okay.
Yep. So if I were to just let me just put in one thing here. I'm just going to put in a new word.
Right.
If I hit this back button up here, it says, do you want to save your changes? All I have to do is click yes.
I got it. Okay.
But if I just exited out of this after I just typed something in before the saving interval, it won't save what I put in.
Okay. So
the one thing is
you
sure
still
you're
need
backing out of it properly.
You still need, so if you X out without saving, obviously it's not going to
Yep.
save. But if you click the back or you click the save,
Yep.
so you or you don't so you would click the back button because you want to go to a different document, but it'll automatically save what
Yeah.
you just finished.
But you don't even have to click the back button to go to a new document.
Okay.
All of your documents are here inside the forms editor. The point of the forms editor is that you don't, once you're in it, you can do all of your work all at once. The only time you would back out is, let's say that you wanted to go to a different transaction.
Different transaction.
Maybe you have two transactions going at the same time. Right now, I'm only in my 525 South Virgil transaction. Let's say I wanted to go to my, Mary Street transaction. I'd have to hit the back button there. But in the new forms editor, let's say I don't ever have to hit the back button to work on different documents.
Okay.
All of my documents are right here from my grab from transaction, or I can just click this add button and add in whatever document I need to from my library of forms.
Okay.
Yep. The only time you would really need to back out is if you wanted to go to a different file altogether.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. So we talked about the listing information section, the offer information section. The next thing we're going to talk about is the clause section. So the clause section is a fancy copy and paste feature. So let's say there's language that I always use on my AVID, or there's information or language I always use on my request for repairs. Well, rather than, grabbing that language from maybe like a saved email or a Word document that's on my computer, I can store saved language inside of this clause section here. And the nice part is the clause section is global for all of your transactions. So the clause section is available in every transaction. Any information I put into it, I can find no matter what transaction I'm in. So if there's language that I want to save, let's say that I type something out and whatever I typed out should be published in libraries, and I like it so much that I want to save that language. Well, I can copy that language, come over here to the clause section, and then I can create a new clause. And when I create a new clause, let's say this is the clause for addendums or the request for repairs, or whatever the form is that I always like to use that particular language in. I can title it after the form, and then I can put in the language that I really love that I just typed out, and then click save. Now, let's say I'm working on a different transaction or whatever the case is, and I want to pull from my clauses, right? Rather than having to retype out that information. When I click inside of a text box here, I will see up top this add clause button. And when I click on this add clause button, I can pull from my personal clauses. And here's the language that I put into an addendum. All I have to do is click on the word insert, and it'll insert that language into my clause. So if there's language you love to use for request for repairs, ABID, whatever the form is, you can just save it inside of your library of clauses. Here's all the different clauses that I've created over the past year. But anytime I'm typing in, I can just simply go to that, insert it, and it'll insert that language for me.
Okay.
Now, the last box that we'll talk about in the new forms editor is the tools section. So there's a couple tools that I can play around with. So if I want to highlight language on a form for my clients to see, there's a highlight section right here. All I have to do is click on that highlighting tool, highlight whatever language I want. Then, let's say I want to modify the highlight. If I click on this highlight here, I can choose from a variety of colors. If I want to make it blue, if I want to make it green, whatever color I like my highlights to look like, I can choose from a variety of colors. And I can also choose how dark the highlight is. So if I want to make it a little bit darker, I can do so. I can change it up. Obviously, you don't want it too dark so they can't read it. But that highlighting feature is available.
You
There's
click
also
the highlight, you click the tap the highlight first, and
Yep.
then go over
Draw
the language.
Yep.
Draw, and then you click the highlight a second
Yep.
time.
Yep, and that'll allow you to edit it if you want.
Okay, got it.
And same thing, now that if I want to delete it, I can.
How do you delete it?
Simply click on it, and then I just hit the delete button, but there's also a delete button right here, and then I can just delete it.
Oh, so you just click on where you highlighted,
Yep.
and then there'll be a little delete, and it only deletes the highlight, not
Yep.
the.
Yeah. Only deletes the highlight. It won't delete
Okay.
all the text. There's also a text box feature here, so if I need to add a text box to a form, I can type whatever. I can adjust the size of this. So if I want to make this just single font, if I want to make the font smaller or larger, I can do that. But this is just another tool available. Although I don't know why the text box feature is available when you can just type on any form. But if you want to add language, you can. So that is the new forms editor. Now, let's get to the next portion of this big update, which is the new AuthentiSign.
Can
So-
I ask one more question, Ed? I'm sorry.
Sure.
So under tools, is that, and I know I've talked to you about this before, I'm sure I'm not the only one with this issue. You know, so you've worked over a year and you've worked on a ton of forms, and then you go to, then all of a sudden, like when you're going into a new form, that drop down menu under some things, you know, are just all cluttered up, so I gotta clean them all out, right?
Yep. That's
So-
not in the new forms editor.
Oh, it's not.
Nope. I'll show you where it is though. You're talking
Okay.
about like the drop down for like buyers and stuff or like
Right,
whatever.
to clean it
Yep.
all up.
Yeah. I'll show you where that tool is. That's not underneath this tool section here, but I'll show
Oh,
you
okay.
that after.
Okay, thanks.
And before you go to that, can you answer one quick question about when you write a text on a page, does that just show up for the client but doesn't print on the page, or does it print on the page?
It should print on the page.
It should.
Yes. So and I say that with a small caveat. Currently, there's a bug on that text box. I just showed you that tool is available, but I should preference with currently, there's a small issue with it. It should be fixed in the next week or two. So normally it will print on the page. If I were to add a text box on here and, let's say add in whatever this is, this will print on the page. However, we've been training on this for, the past month or so, and we noticed that if I were to print this form out, that text actually disappears. Lone Wolf is aware of the issue. They're working to fix it. It should be fixed really soon, though. So
I think you should be able to toggle back and forth, because on DocuSign, you would want it there, but on the real document, I don't think I would want it there.
well, so that's in the new signing platform. We're just on the form editor, but in
Oh.
the signing platform, you do have that option, and I'll show you that.
Could you just give a quick example of the freehand? I'm curious to see what that
Well,
looks like.
that's not available.
Oh, well,
So
it was.
you'll see here that these are grayed out.
Oh,
In the CAR library, we don't allow strike throughs. We don't allow freehand or any sort of redacting of our language,
well, maybe it's a silly question, but then why do you have it there?
because there's other libraries that do allow it. So like the air commercial forms, it's just CAR's policy. So anytime I'm on a CAR document, it will not allow me to do it.
Oh.
But if you have access to the air commercial library or some other associations do allow for strikeout in their forms.
Hmm.
So on the car doc, it's not available. But if I were to open up a different document, if I were to come over here to my PDF document real quick, let me just, or it's mostly only the air library. Maybe it's not my PDF document, but there are some libraries that do allow it. That's why they have it in there.
Thank you.
Yeah, I will agree with you. Probably not, the most intuitive thing, but they did make it there just because there are some libraries that allow it. Just our attorneys said, nope, we don't want it available.
Yeah,
Okay.
I would think that they wouldn't want you to be writing on a document either, because it's modifying the document.
Yeah, but you can do that on any signing platform as well. So they did add that in there, because if you wanted to, no matter what signing platform you use,
Like a
DocuSign,
sticky-
AuthentiSign, you can
sticky
add
note.
text boxes.
Like a sticky note, right?
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Thank you.
All right, no problem. All right, so now that I have all my forms filled out the way that I like them, the next thing I need to do is send them out for signatures. I have the documents all filled out, so I want to send them out for signatures. So from the new forms editor, sending out documents for signatures is pretty easy. I just want to add in, I'm just going to add in another form. I want to see if there's a different, I like to add in one document real quick. Here, I'm just going to add this form in because I always like to show it as an example. So let's say these are the 3 forms that I want to send out for signatures. They're all inside my workspace. I filled them out. They look great. Now it's time to send them to my clients. Well, in the new forms editor, it's very simple. There's 2 options to send out for signatures. They do the exact same thing, but there's 2 buttons. I can either come up to the top right-hand corner where it says prepare signing, or if you notice this little pencil icon, this is also the signing button. So they have 2 buttons. I don't know why. I always like to use prepare signing. I think it's really obvious. But this little pencil icon does the exact same thing. So all I have to do is click prepare signing. Now, I get 2. This one in my account, you shouldn't see it, but I have two options here. Ignore, I have a demo account and stuff, they shouldn't. But I can send documents out using DocuSign, or I can send documents out using the new AuthentiSign. So if you use DocuSign, it's still there. It's still integrated with your zipForm account. Nothing changed with DocuSign. So there's nothing to learn there. But the new AuthentiSign has a ton of really cool tools. It is free for all members, and you can send out unlimited signature packets. There's no limit to the amount of signature packets you can send out. One of the, I often get asked the question, well, why would I pay for DocuSign when AuthentiSign is free? A lot of people like DocuSign because maybe their clients use DocuSign. DocuSign is used in other industries beside real estate.
Right.
AuthentiSign is only used inside a zipForm, so it's a service that only us realtors are used to. But maybe your clients use DocuSign in their industry, so a lot of realtors prefer it just because it's normal for them to see it and they're familiar with it. But AuthentiSign is available to us. So I'm going to show you all of the cool features in AuthentiSign. Now, when I select AuthentiSign, the first thing I have to do is start a signing packet. Right here, I can choose what I want my signing packet name to be. Right now, it just says the California Residential Purchase Agreement because that was the first form I brought in. I can change that to, please sign. I can put in the buyer's name. I can put in whatever I want. This is what's going to show up as my signing packet name. It's also like the email subject line when I send it to my clients. You also have the ability to choose where you want your documents to return after they're completely signed. You will see here, this is an optional field. By default, it automatically shows up inside of your Documents tab, just like any other signing platform that you use. Once your documents are finished signing, they end up inside of your zipForm transaction. If you don't select anything, it'll do exactly what it does normally by default. But let's say that you have a folder, you create folders within your Documents tab for maybe executed documents. Maybe there's like a disclosure folder. There's all sorts of different folders you can create. So if you do want to add it to a different folder, you'll see a drop down of all the different folders that you have inside of your transaction. You can have those documents returned to that particular folder. Or if you choose nothing at all, they just end up inside of your Documents tab with all your other documents in a folder that, whatever the signing packet name is. For me, it'll say, please sign.
I have a question.
Yes.
Do you have an option of which email you can send it to? I mean, because a lot of these are just like Microsoft Outlook. And if you don't have that account, then you can't use it. Can you send it through Gmail? Email it through Gmail?
No, AuthentiSign goes out through the AuthentiSign email automatically. There's no way to choose, like, I want to send this through Outlook or Gmail or anything like that.
All right.
Ed, so if you send it using the AuthentiSign, does it show up in your email as completed or something like DocuSign does? Okay.
Yep. I'll show you all of that. I'll show you what the email looks like too, Adora, so that you can really see what it looks like. But
thank you.
It doesn't let you choose what email service to send it through.
Okay.
Right.
So here are my documents. Now, right off the bat, you can notice that maybe you're not seeing all of your signature tags in place.
Right.
Don't worry, they do show up. So the first thing you have to do, over here on the right-hand side, you'll see add participants. So the first thing we have to tell the system is who needs to sign this document. So I'm going to click on add participants, and then I'm going to add from transaction. Now you can also add yourself. You can add a new party. You can add from your contacts, which does include, every contact that you've ever had inside of your zipForm account. But if you add from transaction, these are just the parties that I put into this transaction so far.
Right.
Okay.
So if I want to add in, I'll add in Bob Buyer, Betty Buyer, and myself, Ed Charboneau. So I'm adding in these three parties. Now, before I actually select these parties, over here on the right-hand side of each party name, it says remote signer, remote signer, remote signer. Let's say that you have your transaction or you have some other party inside of here. You don't want them to be a signer, but you can add them as a reviewer or a CC to the email. So like if they're just meant to like review the document, they don't actually have to sign it, but you still want them to get a copy of the email once it's completed. You can add them as a reviewer or get CC'd on the email as well so that they can see what's going on. But they don't actually need to sign the document. Only remote signers have to sign. Now, once I select all my parties, I'm going to go ahead and click select. And then I'll notice that the form does auto tag with all my signature boxes, just like it normally does.
Cool.
Now, over here on the right-hand side, I see different parties that are inside of this particular folder. If you ever notice the red exclamation point next to one of your signers, that means that something is missing from that signer, that you won't be able to send it to them. So if I click on that red exclamation point, I can see that the email address is missing. So all I have to do is add in their email address real quick. Oops, if I spelled my email right. Click save. And then that red exclamation point goes away. So now the email will be successfully sent to them. So as I scroll through this document, any CAR document, just like it did in the past, once I add in my parties, all of my signature tags, initial tags, date boxes will autofill on the document. Now, any PDF document that I add to my signature packet, just like any other signing platform before it, if I upload a PDF document, this one right here, the system does not know where the signature tags have to go. So I have to manually drag and drop these signature tags into place. So to do that, just like in the new forms editor, all of our tools are over here on the right-hand side. So I currently see that I'm underneath my signers tab. To add signatures to a form, I'm going to come over here to my tools tab. And then currently you can see that I am underneath Bob Buyer as my signer. Now, if I want to add signatures for a different buyer, I simply click on Bob Buyer. I'll get a drop down of all the parties that are currently inside of this signature packet. Then if I want to, I can go ahead and select Bob Buyer here and drag and drop Bob's signatures in. I can drag and drop initials into place. I can also add text boxes. I can highlight from this feature, just like you do in DocuSign. If I want to add a text box or anything like that, I can do so right here.
Where
If
did
I
you
want
get the date? Where did you get the date from? Oh,
so
auto.
the date, yeah, the date automatically populates every time I add a signature, and I'll
Okay.
show you how to adjust that too.
Okay.
So now if
Just-
I want to add in a different signer here, I just drag and drop my other signer into place. Once I add a signature tag,
I
the
got
date
it.
box automatically pops up and I can move it wherever I like.
Got it.
What if you want to add a new name?
Yep, I'll show you. So let me just add in all my signatures real quick. And initials. Now, once I have my signatures in place, there's a ton of tools that I can use. So if I want to adjust any of these, I can simply click on the box and I can adjust the size of my signatures. I can adjust the size of my initials. When I click on a signature box here, over here on the right-hand side, you'll see that this signature is currently required. And every time that I send a signature out, a date box comes. So if I don't like the date box to come every time I add a signature, I can remove that and save that as a default setting. So now every time I click on Bob Buyer and I drag a signature into place, you'll notice the date box doesn't populate because I set that as a default for Bob Buyer.
Okay, another question, Ed. So oftentimes you have a signature, right? But there are some establishments or transaction coordinators that require the name to be printed out next to
Yep.
the signature. So
Yep.
that's the text.
Yep, right down here. So right now I'm underneath Bob Buyer.
Uh-huh.
Here are all of my signing actions. So my signatures, my initials, these are all the things that the signer can do.
Right.
Down below here are the signer fields. So if I want to add a text box with Bob Buyer's name, I just drag and drop full name there.
Okay.
Now, if I
got it.
want to add one for Ed Charboneau, I drag and drop full name there. That'll just add the actual name of whoever you're selecting.
Perfect.
Same
Okay.
thing with email address or anything like that. These just automatically add fields.
Mm.
And then down below here, this markup section, if I want to add text to a document, I can click on this text box here. And this will be text that automatically shows up because it's a markup. So it's not necessarily something that the signer has to do. This markup section is for the realtor. So I can type in permanent text here. I can type whatever I want. That text will remain there because it's part of the markup section. Now, if I want my signer to add text, there's also a text line here underneath signer action. This will allow my signer to add text within this section here. But if I want to add text, if I want to add something, that's underneath this markup section.
So that's
Okay.
going to stay on the document,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Okay. What is
Yeah.
the ellipse for?
So ellipses,
Where did you see the ellipses?
right here.
Below text.
Okay.
So ellipses, oops, let me click on it again, are circles. I don't know
Oh.
what they're for, but if you wanted to add in an ellipse and then throw text in there, if you wanted to, circle language, that's
Oh.
all it is creating an ellipses.
Okay, so can you make it different colors so it highlights?
Right here, if I hover over the ellipses, I can choose black, yellow, blue,
Alright.
green, gray,
Okay.
whatever. And then if I
just
don't
another-
want it, I just delete it.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yep,
So-
no problem.
So Ed, what is radio choice?
So radio buttons documents are like the yes and no. So if you have a yes and no box, like on the SBQ, you either answer yes or no. Radio buttons, you can move them anywhere, but for one-in-one, I can only choose one of these. So I would put these over a yes and no box,
Mhm.
and then they either have to choose one or the other. Where a checkbox is just where they check the box, but a radio button is the yes or no options. So it's one or the other.
So
And
if
I
you
can
were
add in multiple ones. So if I have yes, no, maybe, I can add in 4 choices like I just did right there, but they can only choose one of them.
Okay, so if you're sending like an SBQ, which has, or no, not an SBQ, a TDS,
Yep.
has a lot of checkboxes, will it automatically?
Yep.
You don't have to go in there. And
Nope.
put-
Nope. SBQ, I'll show you that in a second, but SBQ, TDS, those all automatically auto-populate just like they do with any other document.
Bob, can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
Okay, sorry. Can you show me one more time how you input the names underneath the signature line?
Sure.
I missed it.
So underneath this tool section here, you can see
Yeah.
here's all my different signers.
Yeah.
So if I want to add Bob Byer's full name, I'll select
Mhm.
Bob Byer, and then
Okay.
down below here is the signer field. So it says full name right here. I just drag and drop that
Okay.
in, and it auto-populates it.
Okay. Is there any ways that, let's say, the listing agent has sent all the disclosures and I'm representing a buyer and I have to sit down and input like 30 pages with their names? Is there any
Yep.
ways to, have the names
Automatically.
Yes.
Yes and no. So
Oh,
so initially my answer is no, but there is a way you could do it, but it will take some work. So
Okay.
let's say that there's a PDF document that you always like to send out. So for example, I always send this PDF document with all my signature tags. Now, the first time that I upload this PDF document, I have to tell the system where all my signature tags have to go. I have to map it out and let the system know this is where I like my signature tags on this document. Now, over here on the right-hand side, there's a layout section. So let's say I always send out this PDF document. Well, the first time I upload it, I save all my signature tags into place. And I come over here to the layout section. And if I click on layout options, I can create a layout based off this PDF document. So the first time I upload something, I do have to map it out, similar to what you're saying. Let's say you always work with buyers and you always get listing or SBQs or TDS or whatever document, you always get it from the listing agent. And when that happens, you get it as a PDF document and you have to manually tag it. Well, the first time that you upload a document using this new AuthentiSign, you do have to manually tag it. But then once you've manually tagged it, before you send it out, come over here to layout and then click create layout. What's going to happen is I'm going to name this pre-approval letter. I'm just going to name this, whatever. This is my layout name for it. And I'm just going to create a layout for this one particular document. This is going to work the same way. If you have a PDF SBQ, you upload it, you can tag it with all the tags the first time. Then save it as a layout. So the next time that you get an SBQ and you upload that PDF, you can just apply the SBQ layout and whatever party names are in that particular transaction, it may be different party names. What it does is it saves seller 1, seller 2 onto the form. So here I have buyer 1, buyer 2, and then my agent. So I'm just going to create this layout real quick. And that's it. I just created this layout. Now let me go ahead and delete everything. So let's say that I have now gone in. This is the first time that I'm uploading this PDF, right? I have a layout saved, but I now have this, this is a new transaction and here's this PDF again. Well, rather than manually drag and dropping signatures into place, I just come over here to my layouts. I go to layout options and I click apply layouts. Then from this pre-approval letter, I just did PA7. That's the one I just created. I'll just simply click PA7, assign signature layouts. Here are my roles, buyer 1, buyer 2, selling agent. It has the names already filled in. I simply click assign signature because it just whoever, and it just automatically put all those signatures in a place for me, just because I saved it. So you could do that with a PDF document, like you just said, for like the listing agreement. You do it one time, and then that layout is saved in your zipForm system. So the next time you get something from a different listing agent, you upload that form, it'll save all, remember where you like stuff, and just automatically apply those with whoever the party name is. It's really great. You're welcome. It's really, really great. Now, the last really cool feature of this new AuthentiSign, you may have noticed we did a small forms update on March 25th. We added in 2 new notice of terminate tenancy forms. But you may notice there's a couple forms that always have these really great and also annoying instruction pages.
Right.
So on the extension of lease, cash for keys, notice to terminate tenancy, there's a lot more forms that have these instruction pages. And you're going to notice on these instruction pages, it clearly says, remove this instruction page before serving the one-page form. For the most part, you could not do this before.
Right.
Here's another example. Our attorneys love to bundle forms. A lot of our forms have the agency disclosure on it. Maybe you've already sent out a document with the agency disclosure and your parties have already signed an AD. And now you're sending out a new document that has another AD on it. Well, rather than sending the AD to them twice, this new AuthentiSign allows you to remove bundled pages. So for example, on this extension of lease, I have my signatures on here. Everything looks good, but I don't want to have this one-page form attached to it. So over here on the right-hand side, underneath the document section, here are all the different documents that are inside of my signature packet. If I click on this extension of lease form, I will see the 2 pages that are in this document. Well, this first page, I want to get rid of. So right here, there's 3 little dots on this page. If I click on that, I can delete that page and then click save. And what it's going to do is it's going to reprocess forms. And now that extension lease page is gone. So if I want to remove bundled pages, another one that I get asked a lot about, when you're sending out, what is it? Is it the application of rent, or it's like the lease listing agreement that has those new rental property owner questionnaire and rental property disclosures?
Right.
A lot of people don't like to send that out. It's not required. Our attorneys bundled it. I think the disclosure is required. The questionnaire isn't. There's one of them that's not. Well, a lot of people don't like to have that form in there. If you're sending with the new AuthentiSign, you can just remove that page out of there, the 2 pages.
So you go to tools,
Nope, you go to documents.
you go to docs, you see
And
your documents, you click on the document, and it'll shows you how many pages, and you can delete which pages you don't want.
Yep, exactly.
Got it. So you go to docs, okay,
Yep.
docs, and then
Remove. Like
And-
you open up the document, you'll see all the pages, and then just click
form,
delete whatever page you don't want.
delete page you don't want. Okay.
All right, so we talked about adding signatures, adding parties, applying layouts. Now, the important part of any signature packet, let's actually send it out for signatures. So to send out a document, all you have to do is come up to the top right-hand corner, click on the next button. Here is this expiration reminder. So by default, your clients will receive a reminder for 1 month if they do not sign the document. So if they sign the document, no problem. Document comes back, they don't get reminders. But let's say that they do not sign the document right away. Well, every day for 30 days, the system will send them an email saying, hey, don't forget to sign your document. Hey, don't forget to sign your document, which is great, but also can be annoying. Now, by default, and once you send out a document, to cancel it is real pain. So I always like to really stress this point here. I always come in and switch the default to a week. You don't have to, but from my experience, having done this for over a year and showing people how this works, they don't always sign the document and they really hate getting those reminders. So better just remind them for a week And then you can always resend it after a week, but having it go for an entire month can be annoying. So I always switch the expiration date to a week. It's the one thing I always like to say, and then you have to hit send. Now, you do have the ability to customize what you want your message to look like. So you can write different messages to each party. As you can see here, I can write separate emails. I can write one to Bob Buyer, Ed Charboneau, the other Bob Buyer. I don't know why I have two in there, but I can write separate messages to each signer if I want to. Or if I just hit the send button, it sends them a nice little default, hey, sign here, and I'll show you what that looks like right now. So now that I just sent out my signature, I'm going to show Adora what the email looks like, who it comes from, all that, so you can choose what you want it if you want to use this. But here's what the email looks like. So in my inbox, it does say my name. If I just show you my email real quick, it does say, you know, Ed Charboneau, your signature is requested, Ed Charboneau. So it says my name on it. But it does come from secure@authentisign.com. It is branded to you, so at least it will display your name. So it's not super confusing, but it does come from this secure@authentisign. Now, once your clients receive an email, the signing process is very easy. All they have to do is click on Start Signing. AuthentiSign will open up for them. They're going to accept the terms and conditions and then click Start. And then every one of their signatures will pop up here. They'll see a progress bar, the required signatures they have. Once they finish all of their signatures, a nice little message pops up. They just have to click complete signing and they're all done. So once again, I'll show you that one more time for another party. They accept the terms and conditions, start, sign, sign, sign. It'll just take them to the next one. Obviously, you know, make sure that they're reading the whole document. That's why I kind of liked what Margie said. You send them the PDF beforehand, because during this process, even with DocuSign, it works the same way. It just kind of takes you to each signature.
Yeah. Nobody
but-
reads.
Yeah.
Ed,
But
what
we-
point do you get to choose your signature? Where do they do that?
Yeah. So I use this system so much that I don't ever have that opportunity. But normally, when they open up the email, let me see if this one does it. Normally, when they open up the email, the second they click I accept and they go to the first signature, here it is. This is what happens. So the only reason mine didn't show up for the first two was because I use this system and I've already done this before.
Okay.
But normally they accept the terms and conditions. If this is their first time using it, they're going to get this right here. So they can choose what they want their signature to look like. They get a couple pre-selected fonts. They can also draw their own signature if they want. Or if they have a signature saved, they can upload their own signature as well. And you couldn't do that before in the old AuthentiSign. This new one, though, allows them to actually upload their signature, where if they want to take a photo or drag and drop it, they can do so. So some people do have their signature saved to their computer, and then they can set this as their signature. They can also draw it with their pen. If you're on a mobile phone, though, you can do this with your finger, which is really nice. Or you can choose from one of these pre-selected fonts. You set your signature, and then that's what your signature will look like each time you go through this.
Great. Thank you.
No problem.
Ed, Brian Malone, I know you did this before. We defaulted, it automatically dates it, right?
Automatically, yeah. So as I'm going through this, it is date time stamping whenever I'm actually signing. So like right here, this signature right here, there's a date box right here. Whenever I
Okay.
click on this signature, that is the date it'll put there.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Yeah, so it won't date it until they actually sign it. So you can see here I put 4/9/2024. If I did it tomorrow, it would be 4/10, so on and so forth. All right, so now that I've gone through all my signatures, relatively easy. Just like any other system, I get updates every time a signer signs something. I get an email saying it's updated, it's updated, it's updated. Then once all my parties have finished signing the document, I'm going to get an email here very shortly that says it's completed, along with the attachments on the actual PDF. Now, here it is. Oh no, one more. I got one more email that's about to come, and it'll say completed. So you get lots of emails. Every time someone signs something, I get an email. So you know when each party does it. And then I'm just sort of stalling right now until I get
Can
that.
you also set a signing order in this?
Yep, absolutely. So I'll just show you real quick. So I'm just going to do this as quick as possible. But yes, absolutely, you can set a signing order.
Okay.
Once you add in your participants, just add in these parties real quick. Add in my signing participants. Oops, let me just ignore. Right up here, it says set signing order. If
Oh.
I move this little slider over, it says 1 and 2. I can make it 1, 2, 3. I can move these up and down. I can do whatever I want.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. And then here's the email that I got once the document was completely signed. I get all the signed documents as PDFs. Also, if I go inside of my transaction real quick, here is the document folder that was automatically created for me. And if I click on this documents folder here, here's all the signed documents as well.
Right.
So those were the big just took effect. This whole presentation was recorded, but what I'd like to do now is I like to open it up to other questions.
Haven't Margie and I exhausted you already?
No. I enjoy it makes it a lot easier. I do webinars where I 4 hours and no one says anything, and that is,
Yeah,
that's a lot more
Ed, Brian Malone, when you did your
Right.
signing order and you had some people who don't have to sign, but
Yep.
they're going to get a copy of that. How does
Yep.
that work?
So whenever let's say you have 10 parties,
Right.
only 5 of them need to sign and 5 of them are reviewers. The signers always go first in the signing order. So
Right.
you'll notice here, let me just show you real quick. But you'll notice anytime you add a reviewer or you add a CC, they're always at the bottom because they just get it right afterward. So if I'm doing that same thing here, let me just show you what that looks like. But yeah, they always are going to be last because for the most part, they don't need to review it until someone's actually signed it. Now, I'm not sure if you can throw them up top if they review it beforehand. I think in that instance, you would just send them the PDF or they actually do it. But let me just go ahead and add in every party here. And I'm going to make this one a reviewer and this one a CC.
As
And
opposed to a remote signer. Got
Yep.
it.
So on here, you'll see here that the CC is down below. I have Sam Seller as a reviewer. I'm going to set the signing order. So the reviewer, you can actually put up top here. But the CC is always just going to be last. They don't get a copy of it till the very end. But it looks like the reviewer. So if you want someone to review it before the parties sign it, an attorney, for example, you can set them first so that they get the email. They're not going to sign it, but they can at least review the document. Or you can move them last. So reviewer, you can add to the signing order. CC is always at the end, and it says always email that end.
And the circle red says that something's incomplete, correct?
Yep. That just means I don't have email addresses for these particular
Okay.
parties. And all I have to do is add in the email address, click save, and that red exclamation mark will go away.
Thank you.
No problem.
Very cool.
Yeah, not bad. It's a lot. The changes aren't so dramatic. I think it's really just getting to know some of the cool new features that didn't initially exist. Like the ability to remove certain pages, the ability to like work on multiple documents all at once. Those are some of I think the really big features that you didn't have before, but you have them now. So I'm just looking in the chat box for any questions here. Is there a trick to sticking the MLS to pull in? Yeah, so the MLS listing number I think works best in MLS Connect, Dora. The MLS function, like if you were using the MLS Connect button within like this, the actual documents tab before you actually open it up into the new forms editor. This MLS Connect button here works the best. And this is where I've noticed that like having like the username and password, this is where it sticks the best. In that new forms editor, I've noticed you always have to enter it in.
Okay, thanks.
Let's see here. Here's a question. I think I got kicked out. All right, so let's say I got all these great documents. I've worked really hard. I have them all inside of this workspace. When I send these documents out for signatures, it does add them as one doc, but they do return back as one or as separate documents. But let's say here, I want to add all these documents as one file now. Well, if I select all these files inside of my workspace here, there's a downloads folder here, and I can download them as a single file or multiple files. So if I want, I can merge them all into one giant file, and then they will take that file and put it into my downloads folder. So yes, you can save all the documents here. Here's my RPA. We then come down to page 1000. There's the PDF. So it did take all my documents, and I just basically made them one giant file just by downloading it. So you will get the signed documents back as separate ones, but you can see here, I just decided to merge them all together. And all I did was add them to my workspace and then download this single file.
Okay, so all the documents in your workspace you can download into a single file.
Yep, and you can add as many as you want. So you can either...
Does it compress it? Otherwise, you're going to have a giant file.
It does not look like it compresses it. Yeah, okay. So this one is 1,606 kilobytes. It's not a huge file, to be honest. But the nice thing is once you have a PDF document, you can then, on your own computer, you can then compress it again if you want to send it out for emails. But let me just see. So this document is, 30 or so pages. Let me try something real quick. Because here's the real test of a document's too big. If you go to attach it into an email, go to my downloads folder. Here's this nice big document. If it goes into your email, it's not that big. Okay. So I think 30 kilobytes. This is only 1.6. I think 30 is the limit for most emails. So it does a decent enough job. And these are signed documents too, as you can see on this document. I do have signed documents in here. And those are generally larger because they do, put the actual signature on there.
Okay, so when you're in your workspace, you just click on the box that you want. You download all. They're going to download to one big document.
Or you can download them as multiple files, which just means separate as well.
Okay, great.
All right. Let's see here. Is there a max number of items you can create in a layout? Not really, no. So obviously, what I would recommend is, when you send forms out for signatures, right? Let's say you've added 4 forms. Each one of the forms, though, will be its own separate layout. So you're not going to create one mega layout for SPQ, TDS, FHDS. You can add all the documents at once and fill them in and have all those signature tags in place. But then when you save them as a layout in the system, it will automatically separate them into separate layouts. So that way, because you don't always get the documents back in the same order. Like maybe one listing agent sends you them as separate files, or maybe they send them in different orders. So when you are creating those layouts, once you have your signature tags into place, the system automatically creates them as separate layouts. So then when you do upload them, no matter what order you're in, you can apply that particular layout. So there's no limit to the amount of layouts you can create, but you can't create one mega layout because the system will automatically sort of separate them for you. But inside of my layouts here, if I go to let me just add in partners, I'm a participant real quick. I've saved a ton of different layouts already. Let's see here. I have a ton of layouts already. And there are system layouts already. So if you look in here, like zipForm is trying to do their best to make some of the most popular forms. Here are my personal layouts. I have my residential listing agreement. I have a bunch of my, pre-approval letters. And then down below here, you're going to see system layouts. So like Lone Wolf already created a layout for the California purchase agreement. They have one for the agent visual inspection disclosure. So if I do upload my own SPQ, there is a system layout that will auto tag that PDF for you. But you can create your own. And I haven't seen a limit to that yet, Elaine. So just a heads up. But yeah. Any other questions? Anything else anyone wants me to go over? Or
Yes, Ed, Brian Malone. Going back to like, the old forms we used to have in CAR. Let's say you're doing a purchase contract here, and we go down to our templates, which would have the different documents that we had. Template 1, template 3. Maybe I had one for condo, and I could just pop that in there. We still do that?
Oh, yeah. So inside zipForm, the only thing that changes is the forms editor. Inside my zipForm, I still have the look of all my transactions. Here in my templates, I still have all of my different templates that I've created over the years.
Oh, we still have them. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no. All that, we didn't want to change too much on you. Yeah. If we did change too much on you at once, we'd have people revolting. And there's already enough revolts in real estate. So we do small baby changes. So yes, your templates are all still there. All your documents are still there. All your transactions, all the information still exists. Even if you were working on a transaction before we made the form editor change, all of the data on your documents is still there. We've done nothing in terms of deleting data or templates or anything like that. So if I were to start a transaction, I can still apply any of my old layouts with whatever documents that I like. So, yep, all your stuff should still be there, Brian.
Okay,
So
Ed,
all of your old
Ed, when you go to one of those templates and there's an old form and it's now been corrected, is it automatically substituted in there?
Yep. So the nice thing about templates, we do an update twice a year, sometimes 3 times a year. We did a big update this March with the new tenancy law changes. But we do an update every June and every December for the most part. If I created a template 10 years ago and it had the residential listing agreement in it for this listing template, every time CAR updates the listing template or the listing form, the template automatically pulls in the newest version of that form. So every time I start a transaction and I apply a template to that transaction, I know that I have the newest version of whatever form. Now, the one caveat to that is we do not automatically add in new forms. So CAR may add new forms. We don't just add forms to your template. We do update existing forms with the newest version. But let's say like those new tenancy forms that we just added in March regarding family move-in and demolition, you can add those to your template, but we won't just add new forms in to like a lease template. You can add
clarification, when that form is, you have an old form and the new form goes in, that doesn't happen until you open it up.
Until it's applied to a transaction. You don't even have to open it up. The template itself, like if you have a bunch of templates created, here's a purchase template I did back in 2021. We updated the RPA. That this template, no matter how old it is, will have the newest version of that form in it already.
Before I ever open it.
Before you ever open it. It automatically does it for you. And every time that template applies to a transaction, it'll be the newest form. The only thing you have to do is if you have a really old template that you love, and let's say CAR created a brand new form, like we're creating a ton of new forms on commission in June. Those aren't going to be part of your purchase templates or your listing templates. You'll have to go back into your old template and then add those forms in so that they apply. But if we ever update those forms in the future, let's say December, if that form's already in your template, it will update to the newest version. We just don't
So they're
add
there.
new.
Good.
Yep.
Do you
Thank
also
you.
save the old
Great
clauses?
information.
Yep. Clauses are all saved, templates saved, anything that you had in here before.
Okay.
It just sort of the way the form editor looks, but all the data that was previously in there that you spent years working on, we didn't
Yeah.
get rid of any of that.
Yay. Good. Okay.
And then I saw Susie had her hand up, and I saw it went down, so I don't. Susie, did you have a question? Susie, Susan. I saw Sue something. Susan. Yes.
Paul Dunn, I had a question real quick. When you're loading up those documents, like you're a buying agent, you're loading up the RPA and all the rest of the documentation you need, maybe even your BRBC.
Yep.
All those kind of things, and you want to send it. You did a test for us just now. You showed that it went up into the email, but it was probably less than 40 pages. When you get done with all that, I'm always in 60 pages plus, proof of funds, those kind of things.
Yep.
That doesn't send in an email. It's too big. Is there a key to that? What am I missing?
So, yeah. So, you have a ton of documents. One thing,
Right.
sending them separately, like if you are sending 60 pages, what I would recommend is maybe sending them or taking all these forms that, I'm clicking on right here. Oops, I didn't mean to open that up. But saving them maybe as one PDF rather than multiple PDFs. Because I think the system does a bit of compressing for me. It may not do, a full compression of all the forms, but, if you do want to send them separately, that's sort of the downside to it. But if you do want to, take all these forms here, and let's say I want to send all these forms out, well, rather than sending, these 60 pages as separate PDFs in an email, I can save these as a single file. And then by saving them as a single file, it may compress it enough for me. But there's also another trick, like within your system itself, like anytime I open up a PDF document, there is a way, like within your actual PDF reader, like on your computer, to compress forms. So like once a form is inside of my computer, let me just open this up real quick, I'll show you. So, we have all these huge PDFs like that we download to our documents. Well, by opening them up in the native PDF reader on your computer, like Adobe here, there is a way right here. There's a button that says compress PDF. So like in Adobe, which is free for everyone, and if you don't use Adobe, I recommend you downloading it. It's sort of like the gold standard of PDF readers. They were the first one that sort of created the PDF. Now, people that have a Mac, there's like a Mac version of a PDF reader. In my opinion, I don't think it's the best. You can download Adobe for free. It costs nothing. But there's a tool in Adobe that's probably inside of the Safari one and maybe your Mac one. So if you don't want Adobe, I'm not, totally trying to sell you on it. But any PDF reader, for the most part, has this compressed version. And so you can basically save this as a compressed version of it to your computer. So you take the file and you resave it as a smaller file size. So that would be the only recommendation I would have is, open up that on your actual computer and try to just compress it within your own software. zipForm doesn't do it. It doesn't compress it automatically like that. But most PDF readers will compress it for you in some fashion.
Yeah, it's always been the problem because you want to send one PDF or just one document to the selling agent. He doesn't want it. You don't want him to opening up 5 or 10 documents, and now your offer just went to the bottom.
Exactly.
All right. Thank you, Ed.
No problem, Paul. All right. Well, for those that
Thank you, Ed.
You're welcome, Brian. No more questions. I don't want to keep anyone. I will note that I will be back in Glendale, even though I already live in Glendale. But I will be back at the association Tuesday, April, is it the 16th? I'll be there next Tuesday. Yep, the 16th.
The 16th.
I'll be there the 16th live in person. So if you didn't get enough of me tonight, come back on the 16th. I'll be there. We'll go over, answer whatever questions you want. Don't forget, Taco Tuesday, May 7th. I'll pull that up one more time for you. Taco Tuesday, May 7th at the association as well. You know, talk to Robert or Christina about that. But yeah, otherwise, have a fabulous night. We
And
will
you'll be in
send
Glendale on the 15th, correct?
16th, Tuesday the 16th.
Thank you.
Thank
Yep.
you. Thanks.
Thank you, everyone. Until next time,
Thank you.
have a good night.